If you're feeling stuck, lost, or wondering if God even hears your prayers, this story is for you. Stick around because this could be the message that changes everything. Let's rewind to 2002, a year that Angela, the woman whose story I'm sharing today, will never forget. January of that year was marked by unthinkable heartbreak. Her father, overwhelmed by his struggles, took his own life on her birthday. February brought another devastating blow as she lost custody of her daughter. March, she lost her job. By April, Angela was on the brink of eviction. Her car was about to be repossessed, and addiction had taken hold of her life. She hadn't spoken to her family in over 6 months. By anyone's standards, her life was falling apart. But then came a moment that changed the trajectory of her life forever. A moment when God intervened in a way only He can. Amid the chaos, Angela found out she was pregnant. For most people, the news of a baby might bring joy or hope. But for Angela, it felt like an impossible burden. How could she bring a child into this mess? How could she care for another life when she couldn't even take care of herself? Convinced that ending the pregnancy was her only option, Angela scheduled an abortion. It made sense, she thought. Letting the baby stay with Jesus felt kinder than bringing it into her shattered life. But in her despair, Angela turned to God. One night, she fell to her knees in her small apartment, crying out in desperation. God, I don't know what to do. This decision feels impossible. If this is wrong, you have to let me know. You've got 3 days, Lord. 3 days to show me what to do. And with that, she left it in God's hands. On the 3rd day, Angela was working at a country club for a golf tournament. No one there knew about her pregnancy, her struggles, or the looming decision she had to make. Between serving drinks and small talk with guests, she would retreat behind her tent to wipe away tears. Her heart was heavy, and the clock was ticking. And then, out of nowhere, a man approached her. Angela recognized him as someone she had worked for years ago. He got his drink, started to walk away, and then paused. He turned back, hesitated, and returned to his golf cart. But something kept pulling him back. Finally, he came back to Angela and said, Angela, I don't know if this is the right time or place, and I almost didn't tell you this, but I've been praying for you lately. You've just been on my heart. Have you ever seen those moments in a movie where time seems to stand still? For Angela, this was that moment. She describes it as if a ball of energy hit her chest and radiated outwards. In that instant, she felt God's presence so strongly. It was as if He was saying, Angela, I see you. I've not forgotten you. I am working. Angela recalls that God brought a vivid image to her mind, Moses standing before the Red Sea. The water was impassable, the army was closing in, and there was no way out. But God didn't abandon Moses. He parted the sea, making a way where there was none. In that moment, God told Angela, This is your Red Sea. Trust me, and I will make a way for you and this baby. The anger, fear, and despair she had been carrying vanished. Replaced by peace and assurance, Angela knew she couldn't go through with the abortion. She left work early, got into her car, and wept in the parking lot. Okay, God, she prayed, if we're going to have this baby, you need to prepare my parents' hearts. I can't do this on my own. 3 days later, Angela drove to her parents' house, a place she hadn't been in over 6 months. She was terrified of how they'd react, but she trusted God. When she walked through the door, her mom immediately asked, Angela, what are you doing here? After some small talk, Angela blurted out, I'm pregnant. Her mom's reaction stunned her. Her mom slapped the table, turned to Angela's sister and said, What did I tell you? Angela's sister explained that 3 days earlier, the same day Angela had cried out to God, their mom had been interceding for her in prayer. Your sister's pregnant, her mom had said, and she's thinking about not having this baby, We need to pray because God has a plan for her and this child. At the exact moment Angela was at the country club, questioning her decision, her mom was on her knees, praying for her. If that's not divine intervention, I don't know what is. Fast forward 21 years, and that baby, Angela's child, is now a grown adult. Reflecting on that season of her life, Angela marvels at how God took her tiny seed of faith that was barely there, and turned it into a testimony of His power and grace. Angela's life didn't magically become perfect overnight. She still had struggles to overcome, but God made a way for her and her child. And through it all, He showed her that no situation is too hopeless for Him to redeem. Another well-known story in the Bible is the story of David and Goliath. David, a young shepherd boy, was facing an impossible challenge, fighting the giant Goliath who had been taunting the Israelites for days. Goliath was a warrior, and David was just a boy with a slingshot. But David trusted in God, and when he faced the giant, he didn't rely on physical strength. Instead, he boldly declared, "The Lord will deliver me." With just one stone, David struck Goliath in the forehead, knocking him down and defeating him. This victory was not by human strength, but by God's power. The story of Esther is another powerful example of God's intervention. Esther was a Jewish woman who became Queen of Persia. At the time, a wicked man named Haman plotted to annihilate all the Jews in the kingdom. Esther's cousin, Mordecai, urged her to speak to the king and plead for her people's lives. But there was a risk. Approaching the king without being summoned was punishable by death. Despite the danger, Esther fasted and prayed for 3 days, asking God for courage. She then approached the king, and through her bravery and wisdom, she saved her people from destruction. Her courage to act in faith resulted in a great deliverance. This story isn't just about Angela, David and Goliath, or Esther. It's for anyone who feels like they're at their own Red Sea, facing an impossible situation with no way out. It's for the person who feels forgotten, lost, or stuck in a cycle of despair. Angela's testimony is a reminder that God specializes in making a way where there is none. He takes our smallest, most fragile faith and uses it to move mountains. If you're in that place today, I want you to know this: God hasn't forgotten you. He sees you just as He saw Angela in her darkest moment. Whatever you're facing, whether it's a job loss, a broken relationship, or a decision you don't know how to make, trust that God is working. He may not part the Red Sea in the way you expect, but He will make a way. All He asks is that you trust Him and take the next step in faith. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Angela's story. Has God shown up in your life in an unexpected way? If you're facing a challenge, or if you've experienced a breakthrough, feel free to share in the comments below. Let's encourage one another in our journeys of faith. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Angela's story is proof that God can take our messiest moments and turn them into something beautiful. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs encouragement. Let's continue to remind each other that no matter how big the storm, God is bigger. If He did it for Angela, He can do it for you. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time here on Astro Compatibility World.